Broadcasting live from the New Creations Weight Loss Studio in Little Rock, it's Crime Chronicle Live with your host, Val Emmons.
Welcome to the Crime Chronicle Live. This is Saturday, April 13th, and this is Val Emmons. And in the studio with me, I have gubernatorial candidate Curtis Coleman, and we're going to talk a little bit about the Act 570, which you may have heard Mayor Stodola's city address or State of the City address a couple of weeks back, and he talked about that was one of the reasons that Little Rock's having such a problem with the repeat offenders, and we're just slapping them on the wrists because of this legislation. And then after that, coming up at 4:20, we're going to have State Senator David Sanders on to talk about some parole legislation he's working on. And then after that, at 4:45, we're going to have Kimberly Powell back on, who is the mother of the slain Sbarro's employee. We're going to get an update and see how she's doing and if there's anything that she can talk about in the case, because we want to keep up with her, because, our whole goal is we teach people how not to be a victim, and she wants to share her experience, and I commend her for that, because it is hard to come on here a month after your son has died and share that.
Gotta be hard.
And she's just an amazing woman. So we're going to talk to her. But Curtis,
Val, it sounds like you got a great show starting about 4:20.
Whatever. We got a great show starting right now at 4:07.
Thanks for letting me be on today.
No problem. Thanks for coming. I appreciate it. So, what did you think about Act 570?
Well, I've been wondering what everybody else thought about it who were most affected by it,
right.
And that includes, of course, prison officials in Arkansas County, jail administrators, county sheriffs, primarily law enforcement officers, and it was a really interesting read for me. And as I told you earlier, Val, we are putting together what was something of a task force to look at what we need to do to improve the prison system in Arkansas. They're just now getting started. Later on, as the campaign heats up and moves forward, we'll be talking about real solutions.
Well, let me go over what it is first real quick, real short. For those of you who don't know what Act 570 is, it is an act that was passed, I believe, last July, July 2011.
Yes, 2 years ago.
2 years ago. But what it does is it provides for shorter sentences for some property and drug crimes, and then, it's taking a lot of funds that don't have to be appropriated to the state federal prison and state prison system. I'm sorry. And then, but it's pushing that back on the counties.
Right.
And so when the mayor was talking about and giving his address to the city, he said the statistics have gone down, but it also depends on if you're a victim or not, whether you think that the statistics have gone down. So basically, it's increased the felony threshold for theft from $500 to $1,000. So in most cases are handled in the district court.
Yeah, what it did was it changed. Previously, $500 above was a felony.
Right.
But now you have to hit the $1,000 threshold to be considered a felony. Anything below that is considered to be a misdemeanor, which the judge has, in most cases, has the prerogative of not sentencing that person to any incarceration time, but simply putting them immediately and directly on parole.
Or back on the
streets. And, the fact is that one of the problems with that, Val, is that a lot of these thefts a significant number of these thefts include guns. Mm-hmm. And previously, if you stole a gun, it was very likely that you crossed the $500 threshold. I mean, because of the amount, right? Yeah, because most handguns and
I never thought about that,
rifles
Curtis.
Cost more than $500, but there are a lot of them that cost less than $1,000.
Right.
So now you have guns being stolen that only qualify as a misdemeanor because they're less than $1,000.
And if you lie on application to get your background check to buy a gun, you're supposed to be in federal offense, right?
Well, yeah.
So, and you can steal one and not even get a felony?
Yeah, that's correct.
That's crazy.
So, it's, that's part of the problem. And so there are a lot of law enforcement officers who are very distressed about this. Plus, it doubled the amount, let's say, like of methamphetamines, or actually, it changed the laws on manufacturing meth. There's a certain amount that now falls below the threshold in manufacturing meth, where it just now is a misdemeanor instead of a felony.
Marijuana
double the amount of marijuana you can have in possession. from a misdemeanor to a felony. And again, it goes back to the problem. The intent was really good because our prisons were definitely overcrowded in
right.
Arkansas. So the intent was to relieve the overcrowding of prisons in Arkansas, and I think it has accomplished that to some degree. I think the number of prisoners that are backed up waiting to go to state prison has shrunk, like 80 or 90%.
Right.
But
at what cost?
Yeah, at what cost, both to society and also what has happened is because these misdemeanors don't usually end up in somebody being put to prison, but they do. Those people who commit those misdemeanors end up being housed in county jails.
So it's basically shifting the cost.
It shifts the cost
right.
from the prison to the counties and to the cities.
It's not costing us any less. It's just
changed which way the tax gets collected.
Yeah, right.
That's one of my big issues right now in the whole state of Arkansas. I think, and one of the things I'm talking, this is not on the subject, but one of the reasons I'm talking so much about not expanding Medicaid is because the intent, the principle of what I hear is that we're going to shift the cost from the state to the federal government. But the problem is, Val, that guess where the federal government gets its money?
They don't come up with it and grow it out of the ground.
And in fact, it's going to tremendously increase the cost of the program for the federal government, but they get the money from Arkansas just like the state does. Somehow in state government, in leadership in the state, we've got to stop thinking about protecting the government of the state and start protecting the people of the state. And that's a different perspective and point of view. But Val, going back to the core issue here is that we've shifted the cost to counties, and that's been a huge problem for a lot of the counties.
Well, they're not big enough.
Well, that's part of it, but the big problem here is that the state does not adequately reimburse the counties for the cost. You know that when a prisoner goes into a county jail, that the county is immediately responsible not just for food and incarceration, but for dental bills, doctor's visits, health care, medical bills, medicines, all that cost shifts on to the county. And state law requires the state to reimburse counties that are housing prisoners on behalf of the state. But my understanding from a lot of county sheriffs is that if they get that reimbursement, it comes really late, and it always is inadequate.
Yeah.
In fact, a perfect example happened up in Baxter County a few months ago, which is where Mountain Home is. Sheriff Montgomery in Baxter County has an almost brand new jail. And I think it's only about 2 years old. He took a cutting torch and cut out, I think, like 39 of his beds in his brand new jail, and I don't remember the exact number, because the law says that if a county has available beds, they are required by law to accept any state prisoners.
What? And take that cost on themselves.
If you've got an empty bed, then your county has to take the prisoner, and then you have to accept the reimbursement that the state may give your county.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know that.
I mean, Baxter County Jail was hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt and below their operating principal balances.
And obviously, if they had open beds, doing well and handling the crime.
So Sheriff Montgomery just went and cut out all of his empty jail beds, so he wouldn't have to take any more state prisoners because the state was not adequately reimbursing Baxter County.
That's awesome.
Now,
that's not awesome.
Now, since then, I understand Baxter County has found some money.
Stick it to the man.
Right. Well, it's interesting to me, Val, because one of the things we do in Arkansas, we talk a lot about in Arkansas about how the federal government forces unfunded mandates on the state. For instance, well, we all know about those, like Medicaid and Medicare, one of those. We have to do them. We have to pay for them. The federal government doesn't adequately cover the cost, so we have to cover the cost in the state. Well, guess what? The state does the same thing to the counties.
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting and that's one of the things the state's got to stop doing. The state has to stop forcing unfunded requirements on counties, just like the federal government has got to stop doing to the states. So, we got to fix this. And but to go back to the issue that we're talking about, 570, it has created a whole new burden on counties, and a lot of law enforcement believes it's created a whole new burden on society, because if I can go steal a gun from you or commit a crime against you, and it falls below the thresholds under 570. that qualifies a felony, and it's only a misdemeanor. And by the way, you can do it over and over and over and over and over and over again and still just get paroled every single time, because there's no legislation in Arkansas that says, on a misdemeanor, 3 strikes and you're out.
Wow.
And so it's left up to the prerogative of judges.
That's
and I think
crazy.
that's something else we got to fix as well.
I do too. I can't see someone coming at, take for instance, whenever that guy woke up on Kavanaugh and above his bed he saw 2 men standing there. Well, they stole 4 guns from him. Now they would probably qualify. They would probably just go on and go. That would be above the threshold, I'm sure.
Well, yeah.
Depends on what kind of guns they are.
More than certainly it would be.
But if they stole 2 guns and they were $300 a piece.
Yeah.
That's 2 guns out on the street, though.
Yeah, right.
That's just crazy.
Slap your hand, let you go.
Yeah.
And that's what we're doing. The intent, I admire the intent.
To save the state money. Right.
At least to help resolve the overcrowding situation.
But where did it say in this bill, though? Here, that's what makes me mad. It says, an act to be known as a public safety improvement and for other purposes. Public safety? How are you protecting the safety of the public if you're letting these people run around and commit these crimes over and over and over and over again and just be a misdemeanor?
Yeah, that's a really good question.
So anyway, all right, well, we're going to take a break and we'll come back here in just a minute. Hi, this is Val Emmons. Do you have a business? Are you part of a nonprofit? Do you want to reach tens of thousands of loyal and informed consumers? Well, advertising on this radio show is more effective and affordable than you could ever imagine. Please call me 870-897-7716 or email me ccvalemmons@gmail.com to learn how you can have your business or organization's message heard on Crime Chronicle Live. That number again is 870-897-7716. Give me a call today.
Hello, my name is Jeffrey, but people in this town call me Maniac. They call me that because I'm the fastest runner in town. But just because everyone knows who I am doesn't mean I belong. I don't really belong anywhere. You see, I'm an orphan, and I wander the streets just looking for a place that I can truly call home. My name is Maniac McGee, and I'm all alone. Explore new worlds. Read my story in the novel Maniac McGee by Jerry Spinelli. For other great book ideas, visit your local library or log on to literacy.gov. Brought to you by the Library of Congress and the Ad Council.
Hi, this is Val Emmons, host of the Crime Chronicle Live. I know you've heard me talk about the HCG diet that I'm on from New Creations Weight Loss Clinic, and I'm ecstatic to tell you today that with the help of Dr. Schroeder, I've now lost 15 pounds and have been able to get into my size 10 jeans again comfortably. You have no idea how good that feels. If you are interested in the HCG diet, call New Creations Weight Loss Clinic today at 501-791-6795 for your appointment with Dr. Schroeder. That's 501-791-6795. Do you want to learn how to safely own and shoot a handgun? Or do you want to go beyond that and learn how to fight with a handgun to defend your life? If the answer is yes, then Last Resort Firearms Training can teach you both either through private lessons, a class for concealed carry license, or with several advanced level classes. You can call Ed Monk at 870-273-1113 at Last Resort Firearms Training to schedule your training, or you can find them on Facebook. Last Resort instructors are trained military and current police officers. Call them today, 870-273-1113. You'll be glad you did. Have you picked up your Crime Chronicle this week? Crime Chronicle is the Central Arkansas publication for crime-related news. Pick up your copy today at any convenience store or gas station near you. You can also find us on Facebook at www.facebook.com/Crime Chronicle.
Pick up your copy of the Crime Chronicle today because you have a right to know.
And we are back on Crime Chronicle Live. We have Curtis Coleman with us. We're talking about Act 570. Well, Curtis, you were saying that what you were wanting to do?
Well, we need to back up and take a look at this whole issue. I think two things I'm concerned about, and this is a subject for another day because I'm really anxious to hear what Senator Sanders has in mind on parole reform. But two things I'd like for us to take a look at, and we'll come back and talk about it at your convenience. But one is, let's stop teaching nonviolent criminals how to become violent criminals by putting them in the same prison cells. Let's talk about that. And one of the things I'd like to also discuss is the potential for, instead of incarcerating nonviolent criminals, let's talk about creating a paradigm where the objective not only is rehabilitation but restitution, where the person who's convicted of a nonviolent crime stays in some employment or some gainful employment, and a portion of their income is committed to restoring what was taken from the victim, and also perhaps restituting the state for its expense in their prosecution. But those are topics we can explore, and I'd like to explore at a future date.
So, I've just got a text, and somebody wants to know. I don't know if you want to answer this or not, but no, I'm sure I'm kidding. So, do you support the legalization of marijuana? I'm not convinced. And let me tell you why. I don't think the government has the right to regulate what anybody does in private on their own property. However, I do think the government has the right to protect innocent victims. And I am a long way from being convinced that the use of marijuana does not harm and injure innocent parties, right, like other family members and other people. Right.
And that's my issue there. I don't think I'm a long way from being convinced that a person can use marijuana without inflicting injury or potentially inflicting injury on other people.
Well, I that's fair. That's a fair answer. Okay, so when can you come back and talk to us some more, Curtis?
Well, boy, don't my calendar right now is crazy, and
I bet
my team doesn't let me put anything on the calendar anymore. So I snuck this one on them, and so I'd love to come back, Val.
Okay,
and we'll just find an open date. I'll have to call the office and ask when that is.
Well, yeah, I understand because you're quite the busy one.
I'm having a good time.
Aren't you going to an NRA banquet tonight?
Yes, I just got back from Monticello where we did a big outdoor rally down there today, which I enjoyed, and then here, and then tonight an NRA Friends of the NRA banquet here in Little Rock, so I get to stay home tonight. So this is good.
Well, that's good. Friends of the NRA, you're all going to shoot? No,
it's okay with me.
Have some dinner and then go outside and shoot.
It'd be okay with me. And my wife and I are going to dinner tonight, so I hope we don't shoot because she shoots better than I do, and I'll be embarrassed.
Now that speaking of that, we were down at Don's Weaponry.
Yes,
Thursday, and that was fantastic because I got to shoot
a
45 and a 22. So it was fantastic in my opinion. I just want to you guys, if you haven't been to Don's, you need to go down to Don's because it's pretty cool. I'll just say
Catherine,
that.
My wife has a brand new 22 revolver that she really likes. So.
Really, it was neat. But then I shot that 45.
Yeah.
And it was like, woo! I think David Lucas has a video of me going, oh my gosh.
Yeah, right. That's true. But Catherine wanted something small and light and easy to shoot, and this is, and so she's excited about having that. But, it's, there are pictures out of Catherine and I at the shooting range shooting together, and we always get asked, okay, which one of you is the better shot? So I just go ahead and admit it. Catherine can beat me, but I hear that's typical.
Well, Mickey was down. Mickey taught me a few things, and he's pretty good down there. He's great. All those guys down there, all those guys at Don's are great. So if you get a chance to go by there, it's down on in Rose City, that's what they call
4116 East Broadway.
Look at you. You got the address. I got GPS, so I couldn't remember it.
Right.
All right, Curtis, well, thank you for joining us. We'll take a short break. We'll take a short break. You're welcome. Anytime. And David Sanders is on the phone waiting, and we'll talk to him.
The biggest stories. Only one station.
KARN.
News on the hour, on the half, and when it breaks. KARN News Radio. The news is now.
It's 68 degrees in Little Rock at 4:30. I'm Mike Kemp in the KARN News Center. University of Arkansas baseball coach Dave Van Horn has suspended relief pitcher Thomas Altamont. This was after Altamont's arrest on kidnapping and assault allegations. Altamont's suspension was immediate and the duration indefinite. His suspension comes as Arkansas prepares for a weekend Southeastern Conference series against LSU. Arkansas is one of 9 states that are changing their approach to child welfare.
Studies have shown that a lot of kids who are placed in foster homes wind up traumatized. So Arkansas has 5 years to prove we have a better idea. Governor Beebe talks about some children who hadn't had a change of clothes for a long time and smelled like it and were living in a roach-infested home. Used to be they'd be yanked out in a flash.
Instead, the state referred the family to a community assistance program that supplied the children with food and clean socks. The family received a
donated bug sprayer so they could address their pest problems themselves. The information and support from the state allowed the family to become more engaged in caring for their children without court or protective services intervention.
The kids get what they need, the families stay together, and we can cut the foster care expenses. If it works after 5 years, we'll be a model for the nation. Jack Heinrichs, KARN News Radio.
Legislation protecting public waters from potential oil pipeline spills has been approved by the House and is now headed to the state Senate. The legislation introduced by Representative John Edwards, a Little Rock Democrat, is entitled the Public Surface Water Supply Protection Act. The legislation would require that a pipeline crossing any public water have a cutoff valve, and the oil company would have to have a response plan for spills as well as a risk mitigation plan. No new restrictions would be imposed on pipeline companies, but they would be encouraged to build away from public waters. I'm Mike Kemp, KARN News Radio, 102.9 FM on air, online, KARNnewsradio.com.
Hey, I'm Kix Brooks. You ever think about how firefighters risk their lives every day to keep us safe? You can return the favor by installing working smoke alarms in every room of your home and replacing alarms that are 10 years old. Go to alarmpledge.com for details. Working smoke alarms not only help protect your family, they also protect the firefighters who enter a burning home. Make the pledge to be a hero and save a hero at alarmpledge.com.
This is Lisa Edelstein from House. On TV, the good doctors aren't always easy to spot, but it is easy to spot the good that Barasa Ware is doing as a local health worker in Ethiopia. Every day he helps the children of his village survive. When you help local health workers like Barasa, you're one step away from helping children survive all over the world. See where the good goes at goodgoes.org and find out all the ways you can help the good go further. Brought to you by Save the Children and the Ad Council.
Hi, this is Val Emmons, host of the Crime Chronicle Live. I know you've heard me talk about the HCG diet that I'm on from New Creations Weight Loss Clinic, and I'm ecstatic to tell you today that with the help of Dr. Schroeder, I've now lost 15 pounds and have been able to get into my size 10 jeans again comfortably. You have no idea how good that feels. If you are interested in the HCG diet, call New Creations Weight Loss Clinic today at 501-791-6795 for your appointment with Dr. Schroeder. That's 501-791-6795. Have you picked up your Crime Chronicle this week? Crime Chronicle is the Central Arkansas publication for crime-related news. Pick up your copy today at any convenience store or gas station near you. You can also find us on Facebook at www.facebook.com/Crime Chronicle.
You're listening to Crime Chronicle Live with your host, Val Emmons.
And we are back in the studio, Crime Chronicle Live. And with us on the phone, we have State Senator David Sanders. How are you, David?
Great, Val. How are you doing?
I'm fantastic.
You did a pretty good job on that promo there. Very, very impressive.
Oh, you like that, do you?
Very impressive.
All right.
Sometimes these radio personalities don't do promos very well, but you did a good job.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Coming from you.
Well, I don't know that means anything coming from me, but I just thought you did a good job. So.
Well, so you have some parole legislation you're working on. I want to hear about.
Well, actually, yeah. So, obviously there are a lot of issues getting attention at the Capitol these days. One of the things that I've been concerned about for a long time is our broken parole system in the state of Arkansas. We have too many violent criminals who I believe shouldn't be out, who are out, and that's a big problem. But the other problem is that we've had parolees who've committed violent offenses or sex crimes who are booked in, registered, but then they get out and they're not held pending a parole revocation hearing. We've got a lot of problems with regard to mandatory. Well, we've had problems with regard to mandatory parole in Arkansas. There, as the law was, there are several laws, both violent crimes and sex crimes, that if you're convicted of those crimes, you serve, 1/3 of your sentence. You come up for parole, the parole board has no discretion, and it's automatic. It's mandatory.
There's no ifs, ands, or buts.
No. I mean, they have no discretion, or they had no discretion. I'm pleased to tell you today that the laws are different. One, now, in the state of Arkansas, there is no more mandatory parole for violent criminals or those who've been convicted of sex crimes. The parole board has discretion to deny parole, and that's a result of some of the hard work that several of us had worked on. That was actually it's Senate Bill 259, which is now Act 485. And that is now the law of Arkansas, and
so that's a recent development.
Yeah, recent development.
When did that pass?
Oh, let's see. I've got it all here in front of me.
I saw your binder the other day, so I know what you.
Yeah, I'm fortunate that I have my iPad. It passed a few weeks ago.
Well, how did I miss that?
And again, it's just it's one of those. It's not one of those things that was necessarily on the front page and everyone knew what was going on. We started this, a few months ago, back in February actually, and the House.
I remember you talking about that back when you were working on something, but.
Yeah, the House approved it, I guess at the end of March, and it actually became law on at the end of March, back on the 25th. So that was quite significant. The other one that I talked about was a significant bill, and what it requires now, that when you have a parolee who is out, who commits a violent or sex offense, the parole board is required to issue a warrant and hold them pending a revocation hearing. So what had been happening is, these guys would go out, parolees go out, commit a violent offense or sex offense. They'd get booked, get arrested, but they wouldn't be held. And sometimes they wouldn't even have a revocation hearing. It just kind of went underneath the radar, and folks were able to commit continued acts of violence and continued acts of crime. And what this bill does now, it says that's not going to happen. That's Senate Bill 258, which is now Act 129. And so now these individuals who parolees, again, remember, parole is a privilege, not a right.
Right.
Parolees that are out, commit a violent sex offense, they're charged, they are going to be held pending a revocation hearing. And that way they're locked up and they're not a danger to society. And, prosecutors can file new charges, but also the parole board will have to have a revocation hearing, and they can be sent back. They can be sent back to prison.
Wow.
And they can have their parole revoked.
That's
now, I will
awesome.
tell you. Well, it does, but let me tell you. So this is just a start. Part of the problem is when a lot of times when these folks are sent back, they're not sent back to serve the remainder of their sentence. They're not sent back to really serve much of any of their sentence. They're sent back sometimes for just months at a time. And so we all have a role to play here, and we've got to be vigilant. Our prosecutors are going to be vigilant. They're going to make sure that these folks are charged with their new crimes and prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. But they've got to go back. And the other thing I think that's really important, and this one, it may not seem like it's all that earth-shattering or monumental, but it's Senate Bill 331, which is now Act 486. And what it does is it puts a definition of recidivism in state law. And that's important because, and a standard definition for all law enforcement agencies and all corrections facilities. So Department of Community Correction is now operating under the same definition of recidivism that the Arkansas Department of Correction is. And Community Corrections is the agency that governs parole. And so what it actually says, and let me pull it up here.
While you're pulling it up, you might explain what recidivism is too.
Yeah, and that's what the bill says.
Oh,
so
okay.
recidivism is basically criminals who have been convicted re-engaging in criminal behavior. In the state of Arkansas, it has been so narrowly, and this is important because this is how we see, definitions are important.
Mm-hmm.
How do you know the laws that you have on the books are doing the job that they were intended to do? How do you know if the function of parole and probation is doing? I mean, do we have systems, laws, policies in place that are serving the people of Arkansas?
Right.
And what happened was you've got some, DCC was doing it one way and the Department of Correction was doing it another way. But they were missing a lot of people. The old definition was this: revocation, that means being revoked on parole, resulting in confinement in an ADC, that's a prison, ADC facility, or a DCC facility, other than the Technical Violators Program. And so this is pretty straight language. Let me explain what that means. The Technical Violators Program is it's actually the Technical Violators Center down in Malvern. And what happens is sometimes when folks do things, engage in recidivist behavior, they don't go back to prison. They don't go back to another DCC facility, but they go to the Technical Violators Program. But the problem is that's not counting in the recidivism rates, and it artificially was making the recidivism rates look better. So the new definition is one that is used by the Department of Justice. It's actually used by the Pew Center for the States. And it says this: recidivism means a criminal act that results in the rearrest, reconviction, or return to incarceration of a person with or without a new sentence during a 3-year period following a person's release from custody.
So basically a uniform definition of what recidivism
Uniform
is.
definition of what it is. So what you're now going to see is that those individuals who are on parole that get sent back to the Technical Violators Center in Malvern, they will begin counting in those numbers, and that's very important. And I told lawmakers that, we've got to know whether or not what we're doing makes sense, is doing the job that it was intended to do, and we need to be sure and clear on all the numbers. And I would submit to you, I've watched it happen before, that in years past, the Department of Community Correction had gone before the legislature and they bragged about their wonderful recidivism rates. And that's what they would lead with and talk about the wonderful job that they were doing, and lawmakers would say, well, fantastic. But the problem is that number, that rate, wasn't giving the full picture. Now, lawmakers and the public, for that matter, will have a full picture of what's going on in all of our correction systems in the state of Arkansas.
Well, actually, David, I think we have someone on the phone that may have a question for you.
Sure.
Hang on just a second. We'll get him on. And that's all great information, I think. Okay, let's get Ollie on. Let's see what Ollie has to say. Hey, Ollie, how are you?
Well, I'm doing pretty good. I remember back, I'm going to say 94, 95, when the legislators were in session, it come out where, admittedly, you don't rehabilitate a sex offender. So at that time, I think there was something up about picking their brains and all this recidivism. A violent criminal and sex offenders, a lot of times they murder the victim. If they got their just reward, you wouldn't have to worry about that. I believe back many, many years ago, you wouldn't have all that recidivism because these creeps wouldn't be around to do that. I remember years ago where they let this murder out right here in Arkansas, and there was a woman guard out at McCain Mall in a tent for Sears, I believe it was, didn't have a gun, and that guy did horrible things to her, killed her. So this is a bunch of garbage. They know that you don't rehabilitate a sex offender.
That's right.
And this one pedophile, it was in That's Outrageous in Reader's Digest, where he molested, just going through the swinging door, over 400 children. Now, if you put these guys where they need to be, for 6 feet under, you're not going to have to worry about that. And all these definitions and stuff. I mean, we still do have good basic law, and if that was enforced, we wouldn't have to worry about this. And all when they go down there, it's what, I looked at 1,700 bills one time, 2,000 bills, and, they ought to be discussing all these eminent domain bills they got up there that's going to lead where they can take people's property. What you need to do instead of listening to all this stuff, you need to go online and pull those bills up and look at them and see what's going on. I'm tired of all the mind games. You do these criminals what you should be done. You're not going to have a lot of repeat offenders. Number one, there ain't going to be a lot of them around to do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ollie.
Yeah,
still there, David?
Yeah, I mean, it's a big problem. I mean, what we've done in Arkansas, I think, really since the time she's talked about, is our laws have let people back out on the streets. I mean, it seems to be that's sort of been the driving force. And what I'm trying to do, and what I've done this session, is refocusing our efforts on these people who are truly a huge danger to society. And the problem is, and she's right. When you look at particularly a level 3 or level 4 sex offender, I mean, that means they are likely to re-offend.
Right.
And this is serious stuff. We're talking about people's lives here.
Yes, we are. I appreciate your work.
Yeah, I mean, and I appreciate the support that I've had, not only from the Crime Chronicle and folks like Belinda Harris-Ritter.
Oh, I love Belinda.
She's wonderful, former member of the California Board of Parole in Arkansas, and a crime victim. Her parents were both murdered in cold blood.
Yes.
But support from the prosecutors on this, and Cody Highland and Ken Cassidy and all kinds of them, Dan Shue and Mark McEwen, and even Scott Ellington up there in Jonesboro, and I'm forgetting a lot of them, because they all supported this, because they're tired of seeing law-abiding citizens being hurt by the policies of the state of Arkansas. And for me, this isn't the end game. We're just getting started. It's a very important start. And I talk to a lot of people who share Ollie's frustration, and I know it. I don't think I'd like to talk to her and kind of explain to her sort of the consequential nature of the laws that we've passed with regard to parole. It's been broken a long time, and this is a great first step to fix parole. Again, parole in Arkansas has become a series of second chances, and it shouldn't be. It's a privilege.
I agree with that, and I like how you put that.
Yeah, and if it's and that's what we're getting back to, and our law enforcement agencies, they know what's going on. You've heard Mayor Stodola talk about the problem with parole, and I think we're pushing back now, and we're beginning to get a handle on parole. And it's probably going to require some more laws in future legislative sessions. But this is the first time we've had laws offered in a long time that strengthen parole, and I appreciate a lot of the support that I've had, from people even within the agencies that are on the front lines of the community correction department and the corrections department, and say, we don't agree with what we've been doing. We've got to do better. But also my fellow lawmakers and law enforcement prosecutors. This is it's been a team approach.
We definitely appreciate your efforts out there, David, and I hope you.
Oh, and I gotta say one guy, my friend, Boyce Hamlet.
Okay.
Yeah, he's been a big help too. So I mentioned Belinda, but I don't want to forget my friend Boyce Hamlet.
Well, you're gonna have to come back on the show, and we're gonna talk to you. Like, we'll do a whole show.
Hey, we can do it.
You text me and tell me when you can come on, and we'll do it. And
thank you, Val.
You're welcome. Thank you so much. I want to hear more about this. I'll talk to you another time about it, too.
All right.
Thanks, David.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. And we'll be right back. Do you want to learn how to safely own and shoot a handgun? Or do you want to go beyond that and learn how to fight with a handgun to defend your life? If the answer is yes, then Last Resort Firearms Training can teach you both either through private lessons, a class for concealed carry license, or with several advanced level classes. You can call Ed Monk at 870-273-1111 at Last Resort Firearms Training to schedule your training, or you can find them on Facebook. Last Resort instructors are trained military and current police officers. Call them today, 870-273-1113. You'll be glad you did.
Local restaurants, shops, salons, and more with savings of 50 to 90% every time. Live more, spend less. Download the mobile app now.
Now that's a real sweet deal.
Sweetjack.com.
Now's the time.
Now's the time to make a difference.
Now's the time to take a stand.
To get involved.
To make a change.
Now's the time to raise a hammer and drive a nail.
To build a wall.
And open a door to a new life.
Now's the time to help Habitat for Humanity build hope and change lives with a family in your community or around the world.
Now's the time.
Now, more than ever, help build it.
Visit Habitat.org.
This spring, Isle of Capri-Lula will mow you away. Get ready for the great mower giveaway Fridays and Saturdays in April. You can win a brand new John Deere mower. That's right, we're giving away one John Deere mower every Friday and Saturday in April. And it's so easy to enter. April 1st through 27th, get one free entry daily and earn additional entries with play on your fan club card. Every Friday and Saturday, we'll select one lucky guest every hour between 6 and 10 p.m. to win $100 in fan play. Then every Friday and Saturday night, be here at 11 p.m. One lucky guest will ride off in a John Deere mower. Don't miss the great mower giveaway Fridays and Saturdays in April. You can win a brand new John Deere mower only at Isle of Capri-Lula. Must be 21. John Deere is a registered trademark of Deere & Company. Event is subject to change or cancellation without notice. Gambling problem? Call 1-888-777-9696.
Hi, this is Val Emmons, host of the Crime Chronicle Live. I know you've heard me talk about the HCG diet that I'm on from New Creations Weight Loss Clinic, and I'm ecstatic to tell you today that with the help of Dr. Schroeder, I've now lost 15 pounds and have been able to get into my size 10 jeans again comfortably. You have no idea how good that feels. If you are interested in the HCG diet, call New Creations Weight Loss Clinic today at 501-791-6795 for your appointment with Dr. Schroeder. That's 501-791-6795. Hi, this is Val Emmons. Do you have a business? Are you part of a nonprofit? Do you want to reach tens of thousands of loyal and informed consumers? Well, advertising on this radio show is more effective and affordable than you could ever imagine. Please call me 870-897-7716 or email me ccvalemmons@gmail.com to learn how you can have your business or organization's message heard on Crime Chronicle Live. That number again is 870-897-7716. Give me a call today.
You're listening to Central Arkansas's only radio show on crime, Crime Chronicle Live, with your host, Val Emmons.
Welcome back to Crime Chronicle Live. This is Val Emmons, your host. And I want to update that commercial because I need to update that. I have lost 24 pounds now. And I want you to know, from this HCG diet, I want you to know that I was supposed to stop on Thursday, but I opted to keep on going because I'm doing so well. 24 pounds in less than 23 days. That's insane to me. And if you tried other products, I want you to at least give this a shout out. Call Dr. Schroeder and Mary and see what they can do for you. Now we're going to switch to a serious matter. We have Kimberly Powell on the phone, who is Christian Hayes' mother. You recall back in February that Christian was shot and killed at Sbarro's and Park Plaza Mall. Kimberly, how are you doing?
As well as can be expected. I guess that's the answer I think I'm going to have for the rest of my life.
Yes, ma'am.
You know, it's usually not like that. I used to say blessed and highly favored, but I can't say that anymore. I have to say as well as can be expected from now on.
Right. Well, I wanted to get you back on the show, and I would hope that you will join us maybe once a month and let us know how you're doing because, you know, you see this stuff in the news, you know, every day, but we tend to forget, and we forget about the families, and we forget about the mothers and the fathers and the brothers. And I would hope that you will take this journey with us, Kimberly.
Absolutely, especially if it's going to help somebody. Who am I to say no?
Well, we definitely appreciate you. I know it's not been long since Christian's death. Are there any updates that you can give us in the case? I know it's still. I don't think that there probably is, but.
Well, see, I really don't know because it is an ongoing case.
Right. Yeah, I didn't think there were, but I just thought I'd ask.
Yeah, I just don't know what I can say, unfortunately, and what I can't say because, it has to go through this process.
Yes. And
unfortunately, this is not the only capital murder case in Little Rock in the state of Arkansas, period. So I have to wait, my turn at court, just like everyone else.
Right.
And unfortunately, it's going to be a list. I'm assuming, and this is just what I think, that my particular case will not come to court before the end of the year.
Wow.
And this is, excuse me, it's been very, very, very stressful for me and my family. Your body follows your mind, and I've had several members of my family, that are showing physical symptoms of this. I don't sleep. I might average maybe 3 hours a night, if that. I've had some of my immediate family members that are physically ill because your body, follows your mind. So it's extremely taxing. It's a great loss. His friends, that I keep in contact with them. They're going through some physical things also. It's just everybody wants to know why or have some type of reason, and there is no reason. It's no reason for this. I think it might have been, preventable. I know some things now that I can't disclose. I probably shouldn't disclose, but
well, we don't want to mess it. We don't want to say anything that will mess the case.
No, absolutely not. But right. I know this. I know that these two amoral vermin creatures it didn't start with this crime against my son and this other young lady. It just does not happen like that. They didn't wake up to this. They in theory, they've had to have some type of criminal activity, Now, why that wasn't, stopped, I don't know. I don't know how they were brought up, but I know what came off the fruit of my tree. My fruit was precious, and it gave, abundant life. My fruit spread joy wherever he walked. It was a light behind him. So, and all behavior, most behavior, I'm not gonna say all because I can't categorize, but most behavior is learned.
Yes, ma'am.
And I did most of my learning in my house.
Yes, ma'am.
That's where I got my morals and my values and my character in my house. And there was nothing that anybody else and any other outside influence that could override anything that my mother, my stepfather, and my grandparents had taught me from an early age. No one could influence me.
And see, I think that is the key, and that is what we have to do. And I do that with my children. Like my children, he told my son come to me and he told me, he was like, one day I had said, well, that kid looks like a good kid. He's like, nope, no, he's not, Mom. He tries to sell drugs to me. And I'm like, what?
Oh, dear.
But my son looked at him and said, are you stupid? And he's 15 years old. And I am so proud that I know that I've done the right thing in raising my children.
He did, because just for the simple fact that he trusted you enough to tell you
yes, ma'am.
That says it right there.
I am so proud
because
of him.
He wasn't afraid to tell you,
right.
And even she might be mad, but it's the right thing to do. So, of course, you're doing, the best thing. And that has happened, with my son. When my son's friends, would come by, I would scream them.
We talked about that.
Oh, yes.
We're just the same.
Yes. Oh, yes. You know, I look at their clothes, look how, you know, how they're physical, you know. I'd smell their hands to see if they were smoking. I'd look at their eyes. Oh, yes.
No, I know. I'm the same way. My son's like, "You're crazy, Mom."
Oh,
no, I'm not.
One child actually had the nerve to question me in my house about that. And my Christian looked at me, and he just put his head down. He says, "Oh, no," because he knew what was coming. I said, "Look here." He said, "Oh, well, my other friends, their parents don't question me like this." I go, "Maybe they don't love theirs the way I love mine." Right. Now, if you don't like it, you are more than welcome to rotate yourself right on up out of here and tell your mother and your father that I said that. Okay? Because I said, "Christian, you can't. Him I don't like. I don't like that." Yeah. Well, now, sure enough, that kid got into some trouble a little bit later.
Yeah,
with the school.
And that I keep telling people, even if they're not your child, you have got to talk to these kids that come into your house because somebody may not be talking to them. You know, you've got to instill if they're going to be in your home, they're part of my family. If they're coming over to my house and they're hanging out with my children every day, they're part of my family, and I'm going to treat them just the same as I do my own kids.
Oh, that's true. I have several, whether I want them or not. Whether I want them or not, adopted children.
Yes.
Whether I want them or not, they're still mine. And you know, it's a privilege and an honor that someone, you know, would trust you, you know, with their child, you know. And we have to. I don't know how we got away from that, but we have to get back to that some kind of way.
I agree.
I don't know how. I don't know how, because, you know, Christian was of age. He was 25, and that was a while ago. But I told him, I'm not your friend. Mm-hmm. You know, we're not friends.
I'm your mother.
we're not friends. You know, you can't. What are you going to do? Divorce me if you don't like me? What are you going to do? You can't.
Not hang around with me. What are you going to eat?
Well, yeah, where are you going to go? You know. So he's like, "Oh, Mom," you know, like that. But we have to get back to that. I can't. I could just imagine. You know what these two, let me not say. I just can't. I can't imagine. This would never occur to anyone in my family to commit a crime this heinous.
I know.
And this.
I know.
It would never. We've never had anyone in our family murdered. Not one person that I could recall, and I could trace my family back to my great grandparents, and we've had, of course, people die,
right,
you know, with sickness and things of that nature. We've had a couple of car accidents, but to be taken like this, no.
Well, Kimberly, we commend you for sharing your journey with us, and we are almost out of time here, but I want you to feel like you can, if you're ever listening out there and you want to call in and comment on anything or give us an update, or, you know, because I know there's sometimes that you don't feel like talking, and you may
a lot of times.
Yeah.
A lot of times. And, you know, with you, of course, I'm going to say, because it's important, because I do live in New York.
Right.
Yeah, I live in New York City. My mother lives, you know, she's in Arkansas. My sister's in Illinois. So we said we're going to be, you know, closer, you know, than ever. And if anybody, you know, wants to, you know, reach out to me if they're going through this. Because at first I thought that, you know, I was, you know, going crazy. But I have to, you know, feel this grief because it is so new. And this is, you know, very, very, very normal. But I walk around a lot of times like, oh, I forgot to eat today. I forgot, should I work out today? You know, I have no idea what I'm supposed to do with my life.
Well, Kimberly, we're going to talk to you more about that, and if you want to talk more after the show, because we've run out of time, but you can call me on my cell phone, and we can talk.
Well, I thank you, and I want to say I love you all in Arkansas. I love you. This is where my family's from, and I'm proud of my Southern roots.
Well, we
Absolutely.
love you, and we love all you listeners out there, too, so keep tuned in, and we'll follow Kimberly's story. Until next week,
okay.
This is Val Emmons.
Gun because of what he used for target practice. ABC's Matt Gutman explains.
A sergeant in the Cape Canaveral police force has been fired for allegedly using Trayvon Martin posters for target practice. He brought two of them, apparently, to a target practice where he was training other police officers on April 4th. He has been fired from his job.
A Newtown mom filling in for President Obama today in his weekly address. Francine Wheeler, whose 6-year-old son was killed in the Connecticut school shooting, begged for Congress to do something to curb gun violence.
Thousands of other families across the United States are also drowning in our grief. Please help us do something before our tragedy becomes your tragedy.
Meantime, a southern Minnesota restaurant owner is offering his customers discounts if they bring their weapons with them.
At the Langtree Cafe in Brownsdale, Minnesota, Thursday is Conceal and Carry Day.
So if you come out with a concealed gun, you get 15% off.
And cafe owner Steve Nagel says if you wear your weapon out in the open, the discount is even deeper.
Well, then it's 25% off your meal.
It's totally legal for permit holders under Minnesota law, says Mower County Sheriff Teresa Mazzi, although
it's certainly unique for Mower County.
And Steve Nagel says business is booming.
I'm sure there's a possibility that, that may offend some people.
Scott Goldberg, ABC News.
Secretary of State John Kerry is in China and issued a strong warning to North Korea today. ABC's Dana Hughes reports from Beijing.
He said that the people of North Korea need more food, not more missile launches. And he again warned that there would be strong consequences to continued provocations, including another missile launch.
In London's Trafalgar Square, protesters are sipping champagne and celebrating the death of late Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher, saying they've been waiting for this for a long time. Thatcher died Monday. She was 87. You're listening to ABC News.
Now's the time.
Now's the time to make a difference.
Now's the time to take a stand.
To get involved.
To make a change.
Now's the time to raise a hammer and drive a nail.
To build a wall.
And open a door to a new life.
Now's the time to help Habitat for Humanity build hope and change lives with a family in your community or around the world.
Now's the time.
Now, more than ever, help build it.
Visit Habitat.org.
Do you have unfiled tax returns or owe the IRS or state more than $10,000? If you don't take action now, your tax problem is only going to get worse. Seizure of property, bank levies, wage garnishments, and potential criminal prosecution. Call the experts at U.S. Tax Shield for help at 1-800-334-5070. Our tax advisors will review your case for free, inform you of your rights, and give you a guaranteed quote. And we have an A+ rating with the BBB, so get protected. Call U.S. Tax Shield now at 1-800-334-5070.
A middle school teacher in Tucson may be in hot water for the way she disciplined kids after a fire drill. ABC's Joan Bennett has the story.
Kids don't always take fire drills seriously, especially tweens. But a Tucson middle school teacher apparently took offense when her students misbehaved during a recent drill. Students say she made them write, "I want to die in a fire" on a piece of paper and walk around the campus with the papers held above their heads. Then they had to write, "I want to die in a fire" 100 times for homework. School district officials called the incident unacceptable and vowed to take action against the teacher. One parent called the assignment a forced suicide note. Joan Bennett, ABC News.
Despite sequester cuts, the White House allowing its annual garden tours to go forward this weekend.
White House tours were canceled indefinitely on March 9th due to sequester cuts faced by the Secret Service. This is the second time visitors have a chance to be on the White House grounds since the cuts took place. Last week, hundreds of visitors were granted access to the White House South Lawn for the annual Easter egg roll.
That's ABC's Arlette Saenz. It's Pet Amnesty Day in South Florida. Wildlife officials are looking for exotic, non-native species like pythons. Owners can bring their pets to the Miami Zoo. No questions asked.
Even if it's illegally held and not licensed, you can bring it to us. There's no penalties.
Johnny Novak with the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission says that they don't want the invasive creatures reproducing in the wild. This is ABC News.
Hey, I'm Kix Brooks. You ever think about how firefighters risk their lives every day to keep us safe? You can return the favor by installing working smoke alarms in every room of your home and replacing alarms that are 10 years old. Go to alarmpledge.com for details. Working smoke alarms not only help protect your family, they also protect the firefighters who enter a burning home. Make the pledge to be a hero and save a hero at alarmpledge.com.
I'm Daniela Bellotta, ABC News.
This is the voice of Arkansas. News Radio 102.9 FM KARN, Sheridan, a Cumulus station.
A mixture of sunshine and a few clouds around for your Saturday. High temperatures around 70. Tonight, partly cloudy skies and not as cool. The low temperature is only dropping back into the low 50s. Sunday, a mixture of sunshine and a few clouds. A little bit warmer with high temperatures in the mid to upper 70s. And as we go into next week, Monday, partly sunny skies and quite warm with high temperatures reaching the mid 80s. This is Fox 16 Chief Meteorologist Jeff Baskin for KRN 102.9 FM.
Hey, this is Tanya Smith with Singles and Exes. Tune in to my show Saturday nights from 10 to midnight for laughs, advice, and who knows, you might even learn a little bit about how the opposite sex thinks. Don't forget to come out for speed dating at West End on April 18th at 6 p.m. Register at singlesandexes.com, where you can also hear past shows that you might have missed. That's Singles and Exes, Saturday nights, 10 till midnight on KARN 102.9.
From ABC News, this is Perspective. Perspective, taking you beyond the headlines of today's stories and trends. I'm Aaron Katursky. In the minutes ahead, the budget battle begins in Washington. Can Democrats and Republicans ever come to a compromise?
We've got to get smarter about our priorities as a nation.
It's disappointing, but at least the president put a plan on the table. That, to me, tells me we now have a process in place where we can start looking for common ground to get a down payment on the problem.
The Iron Lady, inside the legacy of Margaret Thatcher.
She was a radical. Not my kind of radicalism, maybe, but she had that set of principles and she ran them through you whether you wanted them or not.
And memories of Motown, the heavyweight hit maker who launched some of music's most memorable careers.
Barry has conquered pretty much every facet of the entertainment industry. Barry's always looking at the whole picture.
All ahead on Perspective. But first, on Wednesday, President Obama unveiled his budget proposal for 2014, saying it would shrink federal deficits and expand the economy. The president's plan also calls for reductions in Social Security and Medicare spending. ABC's Ann Compton with more from the White House.
If we want to keep rebuilding our economy on a stronger, more stable foundation, then we've got to get smarter about our priorities as a nation. And that's what the budget I'm sending to Congress today represents.
No presidential budget in history has ever been enacted into law as is. The new Obama budget won't be either.
I don't believe that all these ideas are optimal, but I'm willing to accept them as part of a compromise. If and only if they contain protections for the most vulnerable Americans.
There is new spending in this Obama blueprint to set up manufacturing districts, creating jobs, to guarantee universal preschool to all 4-year-olds. The president claimed in the Rose Garden unveiling this would set smart priorities.
A fiscally responsible blueprint for middle-class jobs and growth.
It is a mix, turning off the painful sequester cuts and claiming to replace them with a different mix of bigger cuts. It broke no ice with Republicans.
His budget simply does not represent some grand pivot from left to center. It's really just a pivot from left to left.
Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell doesn't like the math.
It looks like there's less than $600 billion worth of reduction in there, and that's over a decade, all of it coming, not surprisingly, from tax increases.
Now Congress gets back to the laborious work of writing its own spending mix to fund the government starting October 1st. The budget process is a long one, and it will take months more for the House and Senate to work through decisions on how to fund every department of government. Ann Compton, ABC News, the White House.
President's budget proposal seems aimed at enticing Republicans into a new round of deficit negotiations while trying to keep faith with Democrats who favor higher taxes. For more on the political implications surrounding the president's plan, ABC